Hello and welcome to another Conversations in South St. Paul. I am the mayor of South St. Paul, Jimmy Francis, center of the universe, and with us is Andrew Wall from Fleming Field, the South St. Paul Airport. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Glad to be here. We finally made this happen.
Right, I wanted you to be one of my first podcasts, and at the time you couldn't do it,
Right.
Because you
Correct.
were under the weather.
Correct.
But here we are.
Here we are.
This is great, and you've probably seen a few of these,
I have.
so you know what some of the questions I'm going to ask.
I know the first three.
Okay, so let's go. What do you think the first one is?
Favorite band?
Yeah. What's your favorite music?
Favorite band. Favorite music. There's probably going to be some haters that are going to not like this, but I'm a big fan of Creed.
Creed.
Yes.
Really?
But
So like big fan meaning like you've been to a concert or two?
been to a couple concerts. Yep. It was actually the first concert that my wife and I attended when we were first dating.
Oh.
So it kind of hits me in the feels, right?
Yeah. I love that.
So that's my favorite band probably.
Yeah.
But full disclosure, I like all kinds of music.
Do you? So if we're gonna turn your radio on in the car, what's on it right now?
What was I listening to on the way over here? Like some 80s hits of some sort.
So you seem like a podcast kind of guy too. Would you listen to podcasts?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
I do. Yeah.
Anyone there you want to drop? Any specific podcasts, or are you just a rando whatever's on?
Rando, whatever topic I'm interested in at the time.
Yeah. That's so much fun. That's what I love about podcasts like this.
Right.
Conversations in South St. Paul. So how about your favorite sports team?
Timberwolves.
T-Wolves.
And again, full disclosure, I used to hate basketball. Absolutely hated it. My kids started playing basketball. I kind of picked up on some of the rules and some of the nuances of the game, and now I'm a huge fan.
Are you?
Huge
Are you a parent that's vocal when your kids are playing, or
No, I'm not.
You're quiet.
I'm not. I am one of the quiet people. I don't want to be coaching my kid from the sideline. I think that's the coach's job. So
Yeah.
I sit there and enjoy the game.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
how I did it as well, because I'd have no sports. I mean, although I played ninth grade basketball for just 1 year in ninth grade, but that's the extent of my sporting.
So you're an expert.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Those coaches have forgotten more than I will ever know, and
Right.
it's such a obviously as a parent, coaches are pretty special, and
Yeah.
whether you like them or not, they're really impactful in that kid's life for a shorter period of time. But I always remember my coaches. So
Absolutely.
and then, okay, if you're gonna do whatever you want to do, if Andrew's picking out the agenda for the day, what's Andrew doing? What do you like to do in your free time?
Well, if it's the right season, I'm an ice fisherman. I like to go ice fishing.
Okay.
Doesn't
Hard
matter.
water.
Yep. Doesn't matter if I catch something or not. It's about the time being out there. Just kind of currently in the season of life that I'm in, I've got 3 kids. So we're going places every night, so usually I'm kind of a bus driver.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah. So that's your free time for now.
Yeah. That's my free time for now. I do get a few chances every winter to escape and go do a little ice fishing.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining me here on Conversations in South St. Paul.
Yeah.
We're talking about all things South St. Paul, and we could not do it without our Fleming Field, our South St. Paul Airport, which you are our manager of.
Correct.
So what was your journey into aviation? Tell me about that.
So from the very beginning as a little kid, I was always interested in airplanes. My parents said when I was outside as a little toddler, I'd see an airplane, I'd point and kind of get all excited at an airplane going over the house. So I guess it's kind of been in my blood this whole time. I worked at another general aviation airport in the metropolitan area here, and eventually went to school for business aviation, airport management, and then graduated, got a job in Des Moines, Iowa, worked down there for about 12 years, and then came back up here in 2018. And all my family's here, so we're kind of anchored now.
Yeah, I love it, and we're glad you're here. We really are. And
I enjoy being here.
You've been here since I've been here. So
Yep.
I was your mayor starting, right?
Yep.
And what you've done from the people before you, and I said manager, but you're the airport director. So you direct things at the airport.
Right.
And you've done an awesome job. But what does an airport director do?
It kind of depends on the airport. At our airport in South St. Paul, we have a very small staff. So My job could be anything from desk work with leases, billing, those types of things, up to and including snow removal, some lawn mowing, fixing different things if we can on our own. So you kind of have to know a little bit about everything. And that's kind of what I project to our staff. There's only 3 of us, and they're there during the week. And we get along really well. We all have to kind of work together to keep that airport running efficiently.
Yeah.
So,
and recently we had you've had emergencies out there, but recently we had an emergency, and you can share about that, how that happened. But in those cases of emergencies, maybe just talk us through what happens. What do you do in an emergency?
Sure. So I did have a lot of background at the Des Moines Airport in emergency management. It's a different kind of operation. It's more commercial operations versus general aviation operations. But some of the basics remain the same. I was kind of wondering if you were going to bring this up, actually, and I'm glad you did, because it did get a little bit of social media, notoriety and a little bit of views and stuff. So how it kind of happened, how it kind of played out. Our field maintenance worker was actually cutting grass near the runway. He saw it happen. He called over the radio. We heard it. We were in the office eating lunch. And so we responded to the scene. The pilot was already out of the plane. And I ended up calling 911 once we got down there and kind of assessed the situation. He did have a pretty good gash on his forehead, and that's kind of what prompted the call to 911. There was no fire, no fuel leaking, none of that, not a safety concern from that standpoint. But it was just more his well-being.
Sure.
And he ended up being just fine, which we're thankful for. And then, we leveraged our partnership with Whip Air out there. They're a great asset to have at our airport and in this community in general. But they've helped us on a few occasions with incidents like this, with getting the planes off the runway, flipped over, whatever has to happen. They've kind of got some knowledge and expertise and some equipment, and along with what we have, that we can get things back open again.
Yeah. So basically, this was a private pilot who was either taking off or landing and taxiing, and had a malfunction, flipped over the plane.
Yep.
Probably that's where his head got hit by hitting the front. So it's a plain old accident, right?
Correct.
And so this was a private pilot that was out there.
Yep.
So what happens when that happens then? So the FAA could get involved, and other people just for the incident? Just for those that aren't familiar with it, does it just end when you flip the plane over and it goes away? Or does that private pilot, have to go through some steps and report back to the airport or what have you?
Right. So that day, my first call was to 911, and then my second call was to there's something called the FAA Regional Operations Center, and it's kind of a one-stop shop for airport managers and other airport operators to call, and they can get you in touch with people to issue NOTAMs to close your airport, a notice to airmen. They can get you in touch with FAA representatives in your area, NTSB representatives, anybody you want. They can help you with that, because obviously, there's a lot of things going on at the same time, and you don't want to be making 10 phone calls. So you call one number, you can get all the help you need. And so when we call them, it does trigger an FAA representatives from the Flight Standard District office here in the Twin Cities to come out and talk to the pilot, take a look at the airplane, assess the damage. They kind of categorize it, minor, major, that type of thing.
Yeah.
As far as anything the pilot's going to have to take care of on his end, I can't comment on that, because that's not my jurisdiction, so to speak. And as far as the airport goes, once we got the all clear to move the airplane from the investigators, we moved it. Whip Air assisted us in getting it back to the gentleman's hangar, and then the FAA kind of takes it over from there.
Yeah. So it's just standard, then it just moves to standard operations and continues on. We were talking about this with some people, and someone said, "Oh my gosh, you had a crash at the airport." And I said, "Well, that's where airplanes are.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for little crashes like that to happen at our airport, at other airports, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the
It does happen from time to time.
Yeah.
And usually it's just a minor incident. I guess we don't want to see those happen at all.
Right.
If it is going to happen, an airport's a good place for it to happen.
right.
Rather than somebody's yard or somebody's business or anything like that. So,
Right. An emergency of sorts.
Correct.
Emergency landing is never fun. And you can go down the rabbit hole of Google or
oh yeah,
YouTube and watch any and all of that. So that was some excitement down there for the day and for
Yeah.
that moment and
Yeah.
some learnings.
yep.
Yeah. So your job as an airport director is really all encompassing. Anything that happens within those gates,
Mhm.
you deal with it or you help and coordinate and ensure that all that stuff happens. And that's a
Right.
pretty cool job.
Yeah, it is. It's entertaining. I think my motto has always been no 2 days are ever the same.
Yeah.
There's always something different.
Right.
So
So what's been the biggest challenge for you since you've been here? In 2018 is when you came?
correct.
So since 2018, what's been your biggest challenge?
We've had a couple of large projects at the airport. We reconstructed our runway back in 2022. We reconstructed taxiway in 2024. There's a lot of planning that it goes into those projects. I think we started talking about that runway project when I was hired in 2018.
Yeah.
Took us 4 years to get there. You throw in a pandemic in there, that does slow things down a
Sure.
little bit.
Yeah.
But those are some of the biggest challenges, is seeing those through to completion. I think I saw on your sheet here you had something about upcoming projects, what's going on.
Right.
We do have a fuel system replacement project coming up next year, and that's been kind of tricky because some of those fuel system items, say point of sale or the pumps or certain things in that project, are not federally eligible for funding. Some of them are. Some of them are only eligible for state funding. So we're using multiple different buckets and, going to fund it as best we can to lower our local share here at the city.
Yeah, and you've done a tremendous job of getting those grants and getting that investment into us. Now, South St. Paul is a city-owned airport.
Mm-hmm.
There are few of us around the state. There's around the country,
Yep.
but many of them are with the Metropolitan Airports Commission, or a MAC airport.
Right.
So tell people that wouldn't know what the difference is between Fleming Field and, let's say, another MAC airport like Anoka or whatever one is.
Yeah. I mean, all the airports in the metro area here are what we call reliever airports. They relieve that smaller air traffic, maybe slower air traffic from MSP, the big airport where we all go to Florida from and, on vacation.
Commercial
and all that.
flights.
Yeah. So the biggest difference for us, being a city-owned airport, is that, we really leverage those federal dollars and the state dollars for our bigger projects. The Metropolitan Airports Commission does have some leeway with that, and not always do they go for the federal funding. They have enough income that they can sometimes just afford to do some of those projects on their own and not have to adhere to some of the federal obligations that you have when you get a federal grant or a state grant. I think it does make us more attractive for a lot of pilots in the area. We do have some of the cheapest fuel in the metropolitan area, and we try to make it that way or keep very competitive with our closest airports, which would be Lake Elmo, Air Lake, Anoka, those types of airports. We have some of the lower lease rates for hangar lots. T-hanger rental, we have 2 banks of T-hangers. Those are very competitive rates as well. So it's just kind of an attractive airport for a lot of pilots in this kind of southeast metro area. And we even have some that drive as far as the West Metro, like Eden Prairie, Chanhassen area, to come over here.
Yeah, because it's a beautifully run airport. It's low cost, low fuel.
Yep.
The traffic probably from Eden Prairie to here is worth the effort and the savings.
Maybe when there's not construction.
Yeah. But having an airport is a pretty awesome thing for a city, and I know for us it brings in talk about the revenues that comes in, and I don't know if you're prepared to do that, but you can use round numbers. But we really help the economy by having our own
Right.
little airport. Tell us about
Right. Yeah. So back in I believe it was 2019, MnDOT Aeronautics did a study, an economic impact study, and the South St. Paul Airport generates approximately, I think it was in the $60 million annually
that.
range.
Amazing.
Which
Amazing.
you really have to think about. It's not just people bringing in $65 million to our airport. It's to our area, which includes South St. Paul, West St. Paul, Inver Grove Heights, maybe out to Egan, maybe it goes across the river a little bit. But you think about the people that fly in here, they get a hotel, they get a rental car, they go out to eat a few times, or the employees that work at the airport, they go out to eat. They buy gas and things at the convenience store, right? So it's not just the circle around the airport. It's a big chunk of the area that they really look at. And so, that's a huge economic driver for this community to have that kind of money brought in annually to this area.
It sure is, and it's a gem in the state, Fleming Field. So let's talk about Fleming Field. What are the history do you know about Fleming, and how did we become the South St. Paul Airport? How did we get an airport?
So you could probably tell this story honestly. You're a lifelong resident here, correct?
Yes.
So you're quizzing me.
Yes.
I get it. So the South St. Paul Airport was originally a Navy base. Some people in the community might know this, some may not. But fun fact, George H.W. Bush, I'm sorry, did his pilot training here.
For the Navy.
For the Navy, correct. They did their training at the airport. They bunked in the barracks at Fort Snelling. And so once the Navy decided they didn't want the airport anymore, they deeded it to the city, correct?
Yes.
And then it became city owned. It was not city run at the time. There was some FBOs, or fixed base operators, we call them, that operated the airport and plowed the snow, cut the grass, sold the gas, all that stuff. And then I believe it was it in the 80s? We hired an airport manager, or started doing the airport manager thing with the city and having own city staff there on site to maintain the grounds.
Yeah.
So
give us a little more control of what was happening, and ins and outs, and then of course the grants and the federal dollars that come with that opportunity.
Yeah. So we do still have some of those original hangars that were originally constructed in the 40s. There's a few pictures floating around of some of that construction. But if anybody's been out to the Commemorative Air Force for their dances in the spring and the fall, or events out there, those big bowstring hangars, we call them, are original to the airport.
They're so cool.
They are very cool.
And it's hard to do when you have those old buildings to do upgrades and follow the.
Yep.
They didn't have, or maybe they do now. They didn't have in the 40s suppression.
Right, fire suppression. Yeah.
So you put airplanes in there, and with all that wood, and something happens, it would go up. But now all of that stuff is, I would not say state of the art, but modernized.
Correct.
And ready to host that. And really, the airport is for airplanes. It isn't. We're not an airport that wants people having their cars and RVs and those kinds of things out there. We want general aviation. We want the enthusiasts, and even some business people. We'll talk about that in a minute, about the businesses that are out there or that have developed because they're at the airport. But our South St. Paul's owning of the airport really is, again, part of our community fiber. If you go there to your airport and you walk in the terminal, which people can come, and that was the other thing I want to make sure you let people know, how they can come and watch and bring kids to see all that stuff. And they've got pancake and airplane rides and pancake fests to bring in and get people encouraged in that. But it used to be in a circle, right? The runways were a circle. Tell me about why that changed, or how that changed, or any info on that.
Yeah. So many airports in the early days of aviation were just that. It was a circle. Maybe it was cut out of a cornfield, a hayfield, something like that. And airplanes need to take off and land into the wind. That's the safest way for them to do that. So having just a big circle in a field allowed them to figure out, which way the wind's coming from. All right, I'm going to take off to the south, or today it's from the north, I'm going to take off to the north, or some other thing like that. So, now there are studies done when an airport is going to be either constructed or a new runway is going to be constructed. There's studies done on what are the prevailing winds, and then the runway is built in that direction, so to speak, to allow the aircraft to have the best chance to take off and land into the wind.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's a crosswind, but pilots train for that. And if it's too windy, a lot of the airplanes at our airport, the smaller ones, don't fly. Just becomes a safety risk.
Yeah.
So
we're having a conversation in South St. Paul. We're talking about Fleming Field and our airport with Andrew Wall, our airport director. Andrew, tell me, people that are just interested, neighbors, going around with their kid for a day, just looking for something to do, how can the airport accommodate just curious people?
So our terminal building, like you mentioned, is open during the day. We do have some models and things to look at in the building, and we do have a few people that come in with their kids, especially in the summertime. They got to get out of the house and let the kids run around a little bit, so they'll come and visit us. Every Wednesday and Saturday, the Commemorative Air Force is open. That's a great place for people to come and check out. There's no admission fee, but they do ask for a free will donation. A lot of cool things to see there, a lot of things to climb on, a lot of things to look at. So
Lots of smells.
Yep.
It's just great.
And again, that's in one of those old hangars, so
Yeah.
you kind of get the full experience.
Right.
Every spring and fall, they host a dance. We mentioned that.
Yep.
They've got another one coming up here. I think it's in a couple of weekends, September 13th or 14th, I believe. So watch for that. That's a great experience for anybody wanting to kind of have you need a date night. You want to take the kids out. It's a lot of fun. People dress up in period correct clothing. They have a Roseville Big Band there.
It's unbelievable.
Swing dance lessons. They got the planes out. They do a
Super
run up with Miss Mitchell. It's a great time.
Yep.
The other thing, if people are interested in aviation, we do have pancake breakfasts in the spring and the fall, sponsored by our local EAA chapter. And along with that, there are pilots that donate their time and fuel and do airplane rides for kids. I believe it's ages 7 to 18 or 8 to 18, something like that.
Yeah. Just to try to fuel that.
Yeah, just to kind of get them, maybe you get them interested. And I've always said, I was once that kid on the other side of the fence looking in, wanting to be in the airplane or wanting to be up close, So if we can inspire one of those kids, you give 100 rides, you give 100 kids a ride. If we can get one, then we've done our job, right? Hopefully we get more than that. But if we can get one interested in aviation, because I can't frankly do my job forever. All those pilots aren't going to be able to fly forever. So we've got to keep the people coming up behind us, keep them interested in aviation.
Yeah. And you're a prime example of somebody who's an airport director that isn't a private pilot. You're not out flying around all the time. So people can have careers without getting in the air.
Right.
They can also be mechanics, and they can also be interior designers. Yep. And there's all types of things within aviation that can happen. Crop dusting,
right.
All of those kinds of things where the businesses are, there's a business of aviation within it.
Yep. And I've always, I've spoken to some high school kids before, and I've told them, think of a job that you want to do. And there is probably a mirror image of that job in aviation. You want to be a police officer. You can be a police officer. Maybe not at our airport, but at the big airport, they have their own police department. Mm-hmm. They have their own fire department. Mm-hmm. You can work security, like say for the TSA. You could work as a plumber if you want to be in the trades. They have electricians. They have all of these different jobs. And maybe that's your big passion, but you still kind of like airplanes. Well, it's a great place to work then, because you get the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
So,
and we've got businesses down there. Let's talk about that at our airport. They're a huge economic driver for us. They're a huge supporter. They rent a lot of space from the city, the airport. Talk about those businesses and how important are those businesses to our little Fleming Field?
Yeah, they're super important. They're really what makes the airport what it is. Earlier we mentioned Whip Air. They're our largest business out there. I think, are they the second or third largest employer in this town?
3, yeah.
Three, yeah. I think they have about 300 employees between their different facilities, and then they also have a manufacturing facility just across the airport where they manufacture the floats for the bigger airplanes. So we've got a couple of flight schools. We've got a company called Dauntless Air. They operate fire bosses, which is what Whip Air builds. So it's kind of a great partnership to have Whip Air there pumping out the fire bosses and Dauntless Air using them for the forest fire stuff. So
Yeah, and they're going to be rolling their number 200 something off the line here
Yeah.
in a couple weeks.
yeah, I think last I heard, there's like a 3-year wait list for those fire bosses. They just can't build them fast enough. So, and obviously we see the news, we see the things on TV. There's definitely a demand for that. And I think as Minnesotans, we see that with the summer we've had, with the smoke that's been coming down from Canada.
Yep.
There's a definite need for that. So Whip Air, it's great to have them in our community filling that need.
Yeah, we've seen some unbelievable airplanes come in through there, and many of those are from powerful, rich people that have the money to spend on avionics, and they send them to Whip Air, and might not be putting floats on. They might be doing a full interior with lights
Right.
and avionics and all those things, and so that brings again more revenue and more people to our city, and a little, I don't know, excitement, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with Dauntless, coming in if those that don't know, the fire bosses are the single prop airplanes that suck up water from inside the floats, and it goes into holding tanks within that airplane, and then they do that within a nanosecond on the water, and they take off and go over the fire and drop that.
Yep.
So that coming to South St. Paul was because of Whip Air. Dauntless said, well, why don't we just be right next to them?
Yep.
And we were able to accommodate all that and bring all that in with those jobs, and just made their jobs even better because it's right next door.
Right.
It's pretty amazing, and I've always thanked all of them down there. But there's chopper, helicopter places down there. There's these little things you don't know about. Businesses down there. The one fella who goes out and his total job is to fly around the country and tear apart old airplanes.
Yeah.
So he's a scrapper of sorts for airplanes.
Yep.
So again, you think of your jobs that you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's a scrapper part of aviation. So
Yeah.
that is just a really neat thing down there, and we have all that. It's a little sleeper. But not a lot of people know about that down there. And that's where that $65 million of economy that happens here is because of those businesses.
Yeah. 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 So, you mentioned some of the smaller businesses. We have obviously like the scrapper guy. You mentioned helicopters. There's a helicopter outfit there. We had somebody actually working with Excel Energy right out over the river, surveying the power lines in a helicopter, working hand in hand with Excel. And to kind of stay on the Excel Energy topic, we also have a business called Eagle Sky Patrol. They fly around the metropolitan area and other areas of the country, surveying gas pipelines. Looking for encroachment like trees, maybe somebody built the fence too close, those types of things. So they have a kind of a maintenance facility at our airport. And so,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You think about that. And then you see them. I've seen them driving back in the day, I don't know, 4 years ago, driving up 94, and they were doing the power lines where the helicopter was pulling the thing through.
Yep.
And that's all.
I think you and I might have been driving on the highway at the same time because I saw that too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
and you just
amazing.
think about it and go, obviously they are smart people, but
Right.
wow.
They figured out a way to use aviation and to make it efficient.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, so before we end on our conversations in South St. Paul, how did Fleming Field get its name? We'll see if I get this right. There was a gentleman named Richard E. Fleming who was in World War II in the Navy, and he, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, what do they call it? Like a kamikaze pilot,
crashed his airplane into a Japanese naval ship to disable it, and basically sacrificed himself.
A
And
war
so-
hero.
Yep,
Of
yep.
sorts.
And so, yeah, we've got the display in the building there with his picture and kind of some news stories and things like that
Yeah.
associated with his story.
Sacrificed himself, and so worthy of the name to name an airport, and it happened
Yeah.
to be South St. Paul that got that.
Yep.
And we're forever known as the South St. Paul Airport, Fleming Field.
Yep.
What is our, I know they have call letters. What is our call letters of our?
So every airport in the United States, the identifier starts with a K. Don't ask me why that is. I don't know. But then ours is KSGS.
KSGS.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, anything I haven't asked you about your job as the airport director at Fleming Field, about the runway projects, about all the things that we've done that you haven't answered or that you want people to know about our airport?
I will just kind of go back to our fuel system. I kind of wanted to, maybe mention a couple extra things about that. So there is an unleaded avgas initiative happening right now. A lot of the pilots know about it. Maybe some of the general public does not. But the aviation fuel that piston engine aircraft use does have lead in it. It's a very, very small amount, but it's necessary for those engines to operate safely. There's an initiative going on where they're trying to remove that lead from the fuel, make it cleaner for the environment, cleaner for people to handle, that type of stuff, cleaner to manufacture, honestly. And we aren't there yet. The goal is by 2030, so we're getting close. But with that fuel system project, we're trying to position ourselves, and by we, I mean Fleming Field, we're trying to position ourselves to be ready for that fuel. We're going to put in what we call a split tank. So it'll be a larger tank with kind of a divider in the middle that we can close off, so to speak, when that new fuel is available. And we can offer both. We already offer an unleaded avgas right now. It's not the highest octane that some of the airplanes need, but it's available. We offer it. We have two separate tanks. When that fuel becomes available, we'll divide the tank out, offer both products, and then when the switchover happens, open up that divider once we sell the leaded gas out, clean the tank, offer only unleaded fuel. We were the first airport in the metropolitan area to offer that unleaded fuel
Really?
back in, might have been 2018 or 2019, I think. So again, I'd like to kind of try to make us be the first to offer that in the metro area again, offer that new alternative. So we've still got a lot of work to do. And by we, I mean all the people, all the committees and everything working on this. But once it's approved and it starts coming through production and we could start purchasing it, I think we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And again, that foresight in all of that and all the behind the work, the cerebral work that happens to figure all that out, to use money wisely.
Right, you got to set yourself up to be ready and not have to modify something down the road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of decisions to be made.
Great. Well, people are just finding us, on Spotify and listening to our conversations here in South St. Paul. If they wanted to check out Fleming Field, they can go to the South St. Paul Airport or South St. Paul website, and there's a link. But what's the airport's landing page? Pun intended.
Are you talking like the city?
Yeah, yours. Well, I mean, is there a Fleming Field page?
So not any. I mean, there is. If you go to the city website and find our department, Fleming Field Airport, the easiest way that I tell most people to find us is if you just Google Fleming Field, and it will usually be that first hit, and it takes you right to our page. So I can tell you more about the airport.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking. Yeah. I'm really glad that we have you on board and that you're willing. I've been in there before. Just pop in. I stop in and I've seen you interacting with whether they're renters or users already of the airport or people inquiries about the airport. You're very generous with your time, and so thank you for that. But that's just to let people know that if they do have interest or comment, questions, or any of that, you're very, very knowledgeable and always willing. People have complaints about noise and those things, and you address them in a timely manner, as well as, sometimes you can't help it, you can't fix it, but you're able to at least give them a contact where they can connect. And so
we try to do our best to answer those complaints and try to solve a lot of the problems that, if people have questions or concerns, that's part of the job.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you. And it's been fun to be conversations with South St. Paul with Andrew Wall from our Fleming Field here in South St. Paul.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.